Kathy needs no introduction, so that's all I'll say.
Well, thanks, Daniel. Actually, thank you, Daniel. This is the first time since writing a book that I've had a book signing in Richland Center itself, and because it's my hometown and my home county, that's really special to me. So thank you for coming out to see me and to see Daniel and to celebrate this new book, Borgia Rose. I'm very excited about it. I wrote my first book in 2020. It's called Face Down and Rising Sun. And I was a complete novice, a debut writer, and I brought the book down here and talked to him about it, and he said, I'll take a few copies, sure, let's see how it does. I remember being so excited about that. It was the first bookstore that bought the book, and he put it in the store window. And I was so honored that he put it in the store window. That I actually went outside in December in the snow and took pictures of my book there in the store window.
Selfies.
But since then, it's been quite a journey. It's been exciting. Sometimes it's been a little difficult learning all of the ins and outs of writing a book, marketing a book, you know, just the different things that are expected. So I want to say thank you. I'm happy to read a prologue out of the book, very short. I usually am one of these people, I don't know about you, but I'm a person that if I want to read the book, I don't want you to read a whole bunch of parts to me because I don't want you to give anything away. And I don't know how many of you might be like that, but there's quite a few twists and turns in this book. I will say that. If anyone has already read it, I'm going to preface this, please don't give away the ending. For the fact that with Face Down and Rising Sun, I was at an author's talk, and a well-meaning lady raised her hand, and the first question she had was about the very ending of the book, giving it away. And you could feel half the room going, oh. Because they hadn't read the book yet. So that's the only thing that I ask, that you not ask questions, you know, directly about the end. This is based here in Richland County and in 1890. So Richland County not only has a beautiful area and lots of interesting people, it has a fascinating history. And I think that was one of my favorite things in researching this book, was learning more about the place where I grew up. So I will read this, the prologue. The young lady on here, this is actually a picture of her. Her name is Rose Zoldowski. And this is the prologue. The story of Rose Zoldowski has remained a mystery to this day. This young woman was either a scapegoat, mistreated by the popular opinion of a small-town hierarchy, or she was, in fact, a cold-blooded murderer. Rose's life began simply in the rolling hills of beautiful Richland County, Wisconsin. She was born in Ithaca, a tiny hamlet just a few miles from the county seat of Richland Center. Rose was determined to leave the impediments of near poverty and make a better life. While some people would admire her industriousness, others would condemn her for ambition. This fictional account, inspired by real-life events, attempts to reveal the mystery beneath that public case, the things that are hidden away. Many of the facts of the narrative have been revealed over time, and much speculation has been added to the facts. Few people know what really happened to those innocent people who did die, and to Rose herself. If those deaths were murders, then they were murders by poisoning. Cold and calculated, like the infamous Borgia family of old Italy. This is a quote, "I was born with a stain, a mark like the mark of Cain, but it is the mark of my father, my family. It is the mark of Borgia." And that, of course, is one of the Borgia family members. So it gives you just a little taste of what's involved, what may happen. She, like I said, she's a young, beautiful woman. She came here. She wanted to work hard and be accepted. At first, some of the people in the city didn't accept her right away, but there was a very lovely woman who happened to be the wife of one of the local doctors. She befriended Rose and helped her. And there were many people in the town very gracious to her. And from that, after a little while, 2 murders happened, one right after another. And a little while after that, Rose was accused of it. So the book starts from where she comes to Richland Center and takes us through the journey of what happened to her here. That's pretty much the elevator pitch, if you will, that I have for you. What the preface of the book is. If there are any questions, I will try to answer them. If you think that I'm Margaret Scott, the wonderful historian of Richland County, I am not. I greatly respect her and read a lot of her stuff to help me to write some of this. But I'm not an official on Richland County history, but I would try to look it up for you if that helps. Questions about the writing process, anything? Yes.
Have there been newspaper articles in the back about it or years ago?
Yes.
Because I remember hearing about it.
Yes. In fact, I was amazed for the time period in 1890 that there were so many. I looked, one of those resources that I use is Ancestry.com, and you can build a family tree for just about anyone on there. I built one for her and for one of the other major characters in the book. And that led me to newspapers.com, which led me to all of these newspaper articles in 1890, 1891, 1892. Very fascinating. So lots of press about it, yes.
Did they move here, like from Chicago or something, from Italy, or how did they end up in Ithaca?
The reference to the Borgia from Italy is more along the lines of the poisoning. The Zoldowski family actually came from Poland.
Oh.
So they did come here, move here from Poland, her mother and her father, and then they, I believe, moved almost immediately to the Ithaca, Wisconsin area. There's 2 schools of thought that Rose was born somewhere else, that she wasn't actually born in Richland County, but all of her ancestry shows that she was born here in Ithaca, Wisconsin. So yes, it's a Polish name, and her parents came straight from Poland. Anybody else?
So what did you came up with the title? The title is sort of scary.
The title is a little scary. When choosing a title, I've learned that it has to be something that will grab the reader's attention and make you think. But the main reason is because while she was on trial and all those newspapers were covering her, this was a nickname that she was given. She was given this nickname in Richland Center by some pretty prominent citizens, and then it carried over. She was actually taken from Richland County and moved to Iowa County, to Lancaster. A very young and promising attorney named Levi Bancroft decided to step up and defend her. And he felt that public opinion and public sentiment was, the main evidence that they had, and he wanted to defend her against that. But the title actually comes from the fact that they called her Borgia Rose. Good question.
Borgia Rose sounds almost like a dancer's name.
A little bit. You could go several ways with it, possibly, yes. But the reason that, like I said, they gave her that nickname, obviously it probably wasn't the friends of Rose who gave her that nickname. It was a community somewhat deciding that she was guilty before she even had the trial. And they'd come up with, well, I heard this and you heard that, and we put that all together and she must be guilty. So I've actually had people, not too recently, but one was recent, that read a little bit about her, looked at her picture and said, oh, well, I know you're writing this book, but you know she's guilty, right? And I said, well, what led you to that? Just look at her. I was a little bit like, okay, don't serve on a jury, okay? Yikes. So, you can have your opinions about it, and some people feel very strongly she was guilty. Other people feel she wasn't. I don't really tell you how to feel about that. As a writer, I'm going to explain what happened and take you there, and rather let you determine what happened for yourself. Yes.
So there's a lot of familiar names in
Yes.
there, like Bancroft. There used to be a Bancroft Dairies.
Yes. Levi Bancroft went on to be a judge here in Richland County. He went on to serve several different, I think, state attorney general for the state of Wisconsin. So at that time, he was a very young and newly married man living here in Richland Center. He had been, he'd grown up on a farm in Lone Rock and been a school teacher, and decided that he wanted to go to law school. And so that's what he did. He had never lost a case, and so that looked good for Rose, because Levi had never lost a case. He was that good of an attorney. Other names mentioned in here, and of course I couldn't go without this one. She was a young girl at the time. She was greatly influenced by her mother and this wonderful group of women, but there is a young Ada James
Oh, really?
mentioned in the book. When I try to write a book about the area, I try to not only describe the beauty of the area, and we have a lot of beautiful things around us, but I try to give some of the fascinating people in that time period. And of course, Ada James went on to be a great defender of women and children, and she was largely the reason that Wisconsin became the first state to ratify the amendment for giving women the right to vote. So that was Ada James, and again, largely influenced by her mother. Another one who's briefly mentioned, he was born here, Frank Lloyd Wright. Yeah, he is mentioned in the book. So there'll be a number of names from Richland County history that you'll recognize in here. Other family names that you might, like the Bancrofts, be like, oh, I think I know that name.
Just to fill in a little bit on Judge Bancroft, the corner of, what street is that up there?
Isn't it Sheldon?
Sheldon and Mill Street, up
Right.
at where they come together by Strickland Park up there. That house was, when they built it, he had gotten, when the first Capitol burned in Madison, he got the painting off in the dome ceiling. It wasn't like it is now with the massive thing. And it's actually on the ceiling of the house up on the corner of
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes, from the first state capitol. I believe it was his wife as well, who was a very accomplished painter herself and did a lot of very famous people.
Is that that brick house?
No, it's a white clapboard house.
I have seen it, yeah.
Yeah, it like has almost like a veranda in the front of it.
Yes.
Right?
It's a pretty house. I mean,
It is.
I've done some work on it, but it was right next to Mrs. Bailey, if you knew, up there at that corner, and then the Strickland Park there. But that was the edge of town at the time when that was built. So the high school and the hospital and none of that existed when that house was built. So it's one of the oldest.
Right.
I wonder what condition the painting is in now. I mean, it really needed some, fixing up when I saw it.
Well, the couple that owns it now, owns the house now, they were restoring it.
They
were
are
going
restoring
down.
it, good, because it did need that.
It was in a safe place on the ceiling.
Yes, it's on the ceiling, yeah.
What could happen there?
Yeah.
Yes.
What were some of your best sources for material for that period?
Like I said, about the story itself, that would be the newspaper articles on newspapers.com. But I also did quite a bit of research through Margaret Scott. Many of her books about Richland County. She brings up a lot of people and names. And some of those are inserted here and there. There's a lovely little old lady, and she likes to tell everybody the news, if you will. And she would go around telling everybody the news. And she mentions the news about, at the high school at the time, someone took Mrs. Sweet's milk cow and put it on the upper level of the high school. And it was a scandal in Richland Center. That actually happened.
It happened.
It happened. And so I read that through Margaret's work and thought, what a wonderful thing. I mean, and that was, at the time, that was Richland Center before all this happened. That was a scandal. Somebody took a milk cow and put it in the high school. So she would be another one of the great resources. The Richland County History Room at the Brewer Library, amazing resource there. So. Any other questions? I'm also fairly good at remembering the first book if you want to hear anything at all about Facedown and Rising Sun. Remembering that I wrote it in 2020, and sometimes people come up and they've just read it and they're like, oh, this character, and I'm thinking in my mind, oh, okay, who is that? Yes, okay. But I can
We have a
answer
pile of
questions
them
about
right
that.
here.
Yes. We still sell those too.
Tell me that I've sold more of these than everybody else.
I think you're right up there.
Oh.
I think you as far as a bookstore, absolutely yes. You've outdone everybody. I think you're tied with Oakwood Fruit Farm, and they have their fall sale up there. Of course, everybody comes from all over to the Fruit Farm, and they decided to expand and do some authors up there, and came and said, would you put your book up here? Yes, almost. I don't think I'm wrong. My husband could say yes or no, but sometimes by the week she would say, bring up another box. But you are definitely the top selling bookstore.
The only book that's sold you is a guy who's got 4 books out, and Jeff Nania, and that's a friend of Gene Burkett's and Dale Schultz, and so they brought their army with them. But
Yeah.
I think it's my been my bestseller for the last 2 years. Since you first put it in here, it's definitely been the bestseller of the store.
I love it that he, again, put it in the window, and it was right beside, at that time, it had just come out, but it was President Barack Obama's book. And so I did take a picture because, I mean, how many times do you get your work right beside a former president? I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know how he felt about it. I hope he was just as honored as I was. One won't know. Anything else that I would, again, love to, if you
Yeah,
have.
well, what's the first book about?
The first book, and I'm going to hold one of them, is on like a Van Whiteley demonstrator. This is Clara Olson, and she was born in, or not born in, she lived in 1920s, 1925, Rising Sun, Wisconsin, which is up there in Crawford County. If you take Highway 27 from Viroqua down to Prairie du Chien, that goes through Rising Sun. Rising Sun is one of those places like where I was born, Sextonville, that if you blink or sneeze really fast, you might have missed it. But she was down in that area, and wonderful Norwegian family, big, they were tobacco farmers. And of course it was during the time of Prohibition. And Clara was, she just wanted to get out and see things and do things and have some adventure. And she came across a young man named Erdman Olson, no relation, and he was a bootlegger. He sold alcohol out of the back of the Ford Roadster. And of course fell madly in love with him. And it's their adventure together, but she thinks that they're going to get married and they're having wonderful things, and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, Clara disappears. And her family looks for her everywhere. And that's the, I guess, the warm-up for the book and what happens from there. And hearing her story, the first time I heard it, I just said, I want people to know her story, and I want people to know her family's story because they were such incredible people. The love that they had for each other and for Clara. So it was interesting because a reader, actually she was just in here a little bit ago, Kathy, she won a copy of Bourgeois Rose. She said to me after reading this, she said, I just finished this book and I think of the news articles about Gabby Petito, who had been just at that time that Kathy had been reading the book. And some of it kind of goes hand in hand, very relative to today. So, but yes, while I love Bourgeois Rose and it's near and dear to my heart, of course, this is the first book. So it has a very special place in my heart. Thank you.
There's no more questions. We have wine tasting, local Spurgeon wine down in the Great County. And anybody wants to come up and get your book signed or just ask Kathy a personal question,
Absolutely.
we can take it from there.
Thank you again for coming out and being a part of this. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, the ideas are boiling in the back of the brain. Maybe one of the things is that when you get a book done, you are really responsible for marketing and things like that. So you have to spend a little time with this one before you
That would be wonderful. I'll be very proud to have that.
No, I'm going to ask her the same question. I'm going to ask if she's got a website. You get those bookmarks.
It was not a meeting, should or shouldn't.
I have people coming in and buying books for me. They sent an audio book that I might get down.